we're gonna fall. Our situation, the human race has a situation that is quite dire now. We're all starting to think that the world is in such a sorry state, and many of us don't really know what to do about it. Well, actually, there's nothing we can do about it. But if we are looking at what is actually happening around us, and we realise it is so bad, and we realise that civilization is actually coming to an end, because it is. And here I'm talking about civilizations like ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, Mesopotamia, literally anything that is not founded on the hunter-gatherer. Civilized thinking is behind pollution. Civilized thinking is behind toxic waste. Civilized thinking is behind the breakdown of community. Civilized thinking prizes fame and glamour above all else. Yes, this is the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Civilized thinking gives rise to self-obsession and, for some reason, pouting. Civilized thinking does not allow the earth to breathe. Instead, civilized thinking is proud of its business acumen, its industrial and entrepreneurial achievements. And of course, it is proud of its technology, which serves to keep everyone individualized and isolated. But only civilized thinking can create ruins, derelict places. Only civilized thinking can create the need for development, growth, expansion, and ultimate intense ugliness. Are we creating a home fit for generations to come? Of course we're not. But surely it doesn't take much to see that the world our ancestors knew long ago, the ancient myths they knew and lived by, the otherworldly dreams they knew and lived by. Surely we can see they've all but vanished, now just a fleeting, fanciful illusion, something that may not even have happened at all. Those people who survived unchanged for tens of thousands of years, those who knew no growth or development, those who lived with the birds, the sky, and the air, earth, fire, and water. Sacrificing them, our ancestors, means sacrificing life itself. We can start to think, well, each civilization that has ever been here on Earth has fallen. And there have been people at the end of that civilization who have thought, probably in exactly the same way we are, that it's ending. That people have misused the natural resources. They've taken power to heart and exerted power over each other, and that never works. It's unsustainable, both in human terms and in natural world terms. Only the hunter-gatherer way of life is sustainable. If farming communities exist, they must work hard not to develop and grow beyond what is natural to manage. When hierarchy is created and single individuals become more important than the community, a format kicks in. One where kings, queens, priests, chiefs, leaders evolve out of power, which means community councils become obsolete. We suddenly meet unnatural and unhealthy values, which replace natural world values. And that means a path of self-destruction forms, from which, sadly, there can be no return. We're not meant to do the things we're doing today, and we were never meant to do the things we did at the end of each fallen civilization. And by that, I mean we're not designed to behave in the way we do, live the complex lives that we do. No one can cope with it. I can't, you can't. It isn't natural, except we're conditioned to believe that it is, and we can believe that there is something seriously wrong with us if we can't cope with it. Take heart. If you can't cope with it, you are normal, and something of your natural ancient self is unquestionably leaking through. So the message is simple here. It's a really simple one. Realise what is actually happening in the world today, now. Realise what we are facing and know that it isn't your fault personally. It's all an influence from society generally, from the way we're schooled to believe that civilised thinking is natural and normal, but it isn't. The generations to come will have a hard time, and that's why it's our duty to enlighten and encourage them. There were always limitations set by the code of natural law, all the way through history and prehistory, and that hasn't changed. Only we have changed, in more ways than we might care to admit. And it's taking its toll. Sometimes it seems like it's killing us. We need to give future generations the truth of what's happening in the world, but in a caring, reflective and loving way, thereby encouraging their own natural ancient selves to flourish. Future generations must be encouraged to see the natural world not as a spectacle or as a possession or as something to be manipulated, but as a home fit for one and all beings on earth, a place we all share and borrow for the time we're here. Now is the time for acceptance and reflection. That's what's needed. We can at least stand together, band together, share the tragedy, share the loss, and we know that we're going to go on in the other world. And we know that the natural world also has a place in the other world. But if it's out of our hands, as this certainly is, then the least we can do is stand with the trees, stand with the wind, stand with the rain, stand together and care for one another, respect and help one another as much as we can. But by accepting it, we believe there is no way this was meant to last. And if we grieve, well, we're meant to, because we can feel so broken apart. It's a natural consequence of what is happening today. Note that I said natural, a natural consequence. If you broke a limb and it was in plaster, it's natural and normal to acknowledge that that has happened. Acknowledging a crumbling civilization is really no different. But that doesn't mean we've lost our special connection, our relationship with the natural world. On the contrary, it should be strengthened because of our loyalty, because of our devotion. In many cultures, end of civilization myths abound, but most of these are connected to civilized states of thinking. Tales the world over are similar, with fire, water, snakes, dragons, the sun, mankind and deities being gobbled up, with a new world always on the horizon. This is where we all start again and become civilized all over again. In most myths, there are often two Adam and Eve type figures carrying it all into a new future for mankind. The point is, if you have a creation myth, you're likely to have an end of the world myth, which civilizations develop. You can't have one without the other. Yet there have been a great many hunter-gatherer tribes with ancient roots who never had either a creation myth or an end of world myth, because for them there is no beginning and no end. Within a natural world, they see all that has been and always will be. The natural world can only ever be itself. If you ask some Rom people what their religion was, they would tell you that it was all written on a cabbage leaf. But a donkey came along and ate the leaf, so none of us can remember that religion now. The more simple a tribe's myths, usually the less civilized they are going to be. Sometimes, I must confess, I feel that I want to fall into an ancestor's arms, someone from long ago who understands all of this, and I want to ask them, why can't we reverse all of this? But of course we can't, and never will we be able to. But that doesn't mean the ancestors are not there, rooting for us, knowing what we're feeling and thinking in everyday life. And we need to learn how we can once again stand with them. And I believe they saw, perhaps in the light of their fires, what was to come in that deep, dark future that awaited all those who were connected to them. We've all got those things within us, air, earth, fire, water. We're all made of the stuff our ancestors were made of. So we've got to see it, that this has happened before, and it might happen again, who knows? Another civilization will come along. Another civilization will say, great, this is what we need to help the people along. And then they'll start slaughtering the earth again, the trees, the water, the rivers, the oceans, the sky, the clouds. So yeah, I still think we need to band together. It's the best we can do. We will fall, but our sun will rise. It is rising, because we're going to stick together with the natural world. I know it's a harsh message. I know it's a bit of a pessimistic message. But in the end, is it? Because if this were sustainable, what on earth would everything look like? We can't have what we're doing being something that can go on and on and on indefinitely, going against what the natural world is. I'm sure the wind and the trees are listening to me as I speak. So stand with me, stand together. Let's have some courage, let's have some common sense, and know that we can hold each other's hands, and through that, hold the hands of our ancestors who are with us all the time. Harsh message, but thank you for your time.